Hello everyone and welcome to the third lesson in Composition Fundamentals. This lesson is aimed to develop some of the skills associated with session setup and the beginning stages of content creation. In this lesson, we are going to run through the purpose of why we even bother taking a little extra time to first write a composition as a rough mock-up before orchestrating and arranging it. After covering that, we are going to go through a few different examples of how you can set up your own session in your medium of choice, and finally, wrapping up the lesson with some reverse engineering of the 3-stave system. So with that all being said, let's get started. There are 4 main reasons why it is beneficial to use a 3-stave system for beginning to write a piece. First, the ability to visualize a large range of notes in a small area. Second, to gain a better comprehension of the overall form. Third, I think the most important reason for utilizing a 3-stave system is that it is one of the easiest ways to visualize a large range of notes in a small, compact area. The 3-stave system is able to incorporate a large amount of individual parts. Even an entire symphony orchestra from all the various sections can fit, without becoming too overwhelming or unorganized. Standard practice is to keep the melody in the top stave, but if your melody is generally lower than the rest of your parts, counterpoint or other harmony can occupy the top stave. The middle stave is generally used to show the harmonic accompaniment, but can also be used for the counterpoint or even the melody if it exists below other lines. And finally, the bottom stave generally contains the bass lines or harmonic pads, but could also contain a treble clef and contain higher register content if there is lots of contrasting movement within the above parts. Another reason for implementing the 3-stave system is to get a good, broad understanding of the overall form, phrasing, and length of the piece. If you are composing all the different parts at once and are only looking ahead at the next 4 bars at a time, the overall shape of the composition can become lost and lack coherent direction. Working this way may result in the piece wandering aimlessly. In contrast, by quickly sketching in some of the parts and working in bigger sections at a time, it is much easier to visualize the piece as a complete whole instead of tiny sections. This effect compounds upon itself the longer your piece becomes. If you are writing a 10+ minute piece, you will need to spend extra time taking into account the overall form of the piece to ensure there is proper direction and movement that makes sense. It all comes down to being able to see more bars on a single page of paper. The 3-stave system is also great at pre-planning your orchestration and part arranging. By having the ability to quickly sketch in ideas across broad ranges, you can then go back and make notes to assign the passages to groups of instruments or combinations of instruments. For example, if you have a quick 16th note repeating motif, you don't need to initially worry about how you want to separate the notes across a few different woodwind instruments for playability purposes. You can instead quickly write the passage and then go back and orchestrate it to ensure all the players are happy and have a chance to breathe. Another example would be having homophonic or the same harmony. This is most often block chords in your 3-sketch stave. This method would enable you to quickly write out the chords you want and then go back and assign which notes can be played by which instrument. The final benefit for using the 3-stave system is that it can be applied to almost any ensemble, large or small. The same sketch could even be applied to more than one different type of ensemble. The possibilities are almost endless for the different instruments and ensemble combinations available to you when using the 3-stave system. It really is a fantastic tool that will help immensely in your compositional process. Here are a few tips to think about when you're using the 3-stave system. The first tip is to not feel the need to occupy all 3 staves simultaneously at all times. The staves are only there to provide the range and space when you need them, but if you don't need all of it, don't use it. Another tip would be to keep in mind the instruments available to you and to not write outside of their range. You still have to remember there will likely be real people playing your piece with real instruments, so try to write for them in mind. This isn't to say that you have to conform to all the idiomatic rules in your sketch, but keep in mind how you might be able to make it idiomatic when you eventually write the individual parts. And finally, don't be afraid to write whatever comes to mind. The 3-stave system is like a sketch pad. Its purpose is for you to quickly and easily write down your ideas. You can always come back to an idea and modify it without worrying about the amount of time it took to orchestrate that idea. Change, modify, and revisit as much or as little as you want. Section 2 is going to cover how to set up your 3-stave system in the medium of your choice, and also show some reverse engineering of fully orchestrated pieces to help you better understand how to use this system in your own pieces.